Government secret segment number 2. Um, I I think our sound effects are really what's going to blow this show up.
Yeah, I think they are. What frightens me is I fear that you make that noise a lot when you're just like playing with action figures by yourself.
You know, Lee, this quarantine living alone has its challenges, and if I need to talk to, if my action figures are the ones getting me through this, I don't know that I need to be judged for that.
Listen, do you play with your Voltron without making that noise?
Yeah, I mean, I give these characters life, and
I am their lord.
I'm their lord, and they bow down before me, and I don't know that I need to be judged for that, you know? So we're going to do an action figure segment later.
Yeah.
I
listen, my supplicants would be very upset if I didn't do that noise. They expect it of me as their lord, their god.
Lee can't supplicants. Okay. So I didn't think I was going to hear supplicant today. I'll be honest. When I woke up, I did not think that word was going to be said to me.
Well, I used to say that in my stand-up routine when the crowd was starting to get a little quiet. I go, well, for those of you not liking this, at least you'll leave here going, I heard sentences I've never heard before. So
I heard
that.
Words tied together in a way that's never been done. That was interesting. So I wanted to talk about a government secret. I wanted to talk about the Creel Committee. And I first learned about this reading Chris Hedges' Death of a Liberal Class. It came out in 2010. I read it 3 years ago when I first started doing political vigilante and was like, I need to get more up to speed. I saw Hedges. I got turned on to him, I think through Jimmy. He was on Jimmy Show or something, or I started reading him on Truth Dig. And I found that book and was like, oh, and that book was very life-changing for me.
Yep. That and Empire of Illusion. I think I read those back in around the time of Occupy 2011, 2012. And I underlined everything and was very depressed. So
yeah, you don't walk away with a lot of sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. You don't have a lot of that after reading Death of the Liberal Class. You're like, man. And that's why...
Hold on, Graham. We have to stop for a moment from our sponsor. Lee Camp's new book has a foreword by Chris Hedges.
Oh.
So everyone should check out Bullet Points and Punchlines if you're looking to be depressed yet informed. No, I make it not depressing because I throw in jokes about Cuccinelli.
Whiskey and Cuccinelli, that's going to be the name of my next book. But yeah, no, that's actually, and Bullet Points and Punchlines, which is a great book, and the foreword by Chris Hedges and Jimmy Dore, they're very funny and cool. And Hedges is so on point. I've learned so many things about the history that they deliberately hide from us. Like when he was doing his book tour last year for America the Farewell Tour, and he was on the Jimmy Dore show talking about Fred Hampton, and I didn't know who Fred Hampton was. And then I looked him up and was like, head of the Black Panther Party in Chicago that unified Southern whites in the first Rainbow Coalition. And shocking, he was killed by the FBI. Anytime you unify people.
And I believe he was the one they shot like 90 bullets or something while he was in his bed.
Yeah, they just...
Because, they saw the bed as a weapon. They weren't sure if he was going to use it against them, so they really had to fire a lot of shots.
Well, he reached for his pillow. So what are you supposed to do when a guy goes for his pillow? You're a cop. That's how you're trained.
How many people on this planet have been suffocated by a pillow? So goes to show.
We had no choice. But I learned about the Creel Committee, and this was created by George Creel, and this came, it was an independent agency of the government of the United States created to influence public opinion to support U.S. participation in World War I. In just over 26 months, from April 14, 1917 to June 30th, 1919, it used every medium available to create enthusiasm for the war effort and to enlist public support against the foreign and perceived domestic attempts to stop America's participation in the war. Here's what he did. he was so at the time, I didn't know this, but before the Creel Commission, America was basically, World War I had already started, and it was viewed as this war overseas, and it was viewed, they were calling it Wall Street's war. It was just a war to benefit Wall Street. This is in 1917, right?
That's crazy.
Which, oh my God. And Creel was hired by Woodrow Wilson, and he came up with a propaganda machine. He came up and there was this new film industry was starting, and so these movies were these black and white movies showing how bad the Kaiser was. It's a marketing slogan, the war to end all wars. That was a marketing slogan that was pushed to the American people. Once we win this war, then there will be no more wars. They said.
Yeah,
that.
I think people don't realize how much of war is marketing. Is like ad agencies sitting around being like, we're going to be greeted with chocolates and roses.
Yeah, it's amazing. He used, so they're doing this, if you put it in today's perspective 100 years later, where the media is 10 times more sophisticated. And like we talked about MK Ultra on this show a couple episodes ago, and one of the things they learned in MK Ultra basically, so almost to me seems like it's expanding upon the Creel Committee of how do we influence the public. You know, how do we sway public perception? How do we infuse propaganda? And Creel was like one of the first people to go, if we put it in a magazine, we put it in a newspaper, we put it in a radio program, and then we put it in this new movie medium, people are hearing it all different places. So they think, wow, everyone's in agreement on this. And
yeah. So something else I've done segments on in the past is Edward Bernays, who's considered kind of the father of advertising in the sense, obviously there was advertising before Bernays. I think this is around the same years you're talking about, kind of early 20th century to mid 20th century. But Bernays, using his, I believe, cousin or uncle's work, Sigmund Freud, figured out that really ads shouldn't tell people directly what it is that they want or need. More impact is subconscious, or is done with the implication. So if you show us going to war and how brave our young men are, and I'm talking about past when it was only men, but how brave our young men are, and how much we're loved for doing that. If you just show that kind of thing, that's going to get more reaction subconsciously than just saying support this war. This ad brought to you by War Department. War is good. Go support war. So there was a shift in advertising where it became much more of a kind of subconscious implied desires. And Bernays is given a lot of the credit for doing that. And by credit, I mean he's destroyed the entire world.
Yeah, it's great that these guys really planted the seeds of the end of humanity so many years ago. But that's what Creel did. And you're seeing how, as we look at American exceptionalism, right, and how that's been fed to all of us, and especially here with the entertainment industry, which, the CIA is at offices in Hollywood since the late 40s, and they have script approval on some of the big budget movies like Marvel and stuff like that, where you look at those movies, Captain America. And
the way that works, one of the biggest ways that works is if you want any of these large weapons of war, think about the number of movies you've seen where someone's in an MRAP, where someone's walking through the Pentagon, where someone's, a shot of a fighter jet, or even just has certain types of guns. All of that has to, in order to get that in your movie, you almost always need to work with the Pentagon. And they have whole departments, like you're saying, that deal with Hollywood. So any movie where you're seeing people drive around in MRAPs or something, like all these Avenger movies, everything, they have, cooperation with the CIA and Pentagon, et cetera. And so really those movies, they allow some criticism of war and militarism and stuff, but there's a certain level you can't go to and get the cooperation to have that stuff in your film.
Oh, yeah. And that's why it's always in there. And that's why, I mean, when was the last time you saw a movie that was really critical of the CIA? I mean, I can think of 3 Days of the Condor, maybe.
Right, and there are some movies like Hurt Locker. It's like it wasn't fully positive about war. It actually makes war seem confusing and not fun, and innocent people die and stuff. But the thing is, it promotes the ideas enough of like our soldiers are just doing their best and they just want to help people, but they don't always know how because it's tough over there. And like, it's not, they've stopped doing the thing where like, it's just rah, 100%. Look how awesome we are. And they've started doing a kind of more subtle form of manipulation that makes people just believe that, yeah, things are pretty chaotic and innocent people die, but our troops are mostly good.
Yeah, and you see all the little subtle ways that they do this. I remember when Wonder Woman came out, and I was like, oh, awesome, a female, driven superhero finally. Like, I like the history of Wonder Woman. It's interesting. And when I went to, and this was back when I was doing a movie review podcast, and so I was watching movies every week, and I would go see like big budget releases like this, and it was significant. And Wonder Woman was a really fun, entertaining movie, and great. But the ads they played before the trailers, you know how movie theaters now, well, before the shutdown, obviously, but we'll play a couple of like ads and then movie trailers. One of the ads, and this is the first time I had seen this, and now this plays a lot, was this young girl, and she sees some kids bullying, and she gets in the middle of the bullying. And then we see her in college playing rugby, and she's a team leader on the women's rugby team. And then we see her in Marine Corps boot camp, right? And then we see her charging in. Because shooting innocent Afghan people is very similar to throwing the rugby ball. It's all the same thing.
It's kind of the same forearm muscle. It's very similar.
It's absolutely taking resources away from poor people. And then they show her, charging in actual urban combat, and they just glamorize it. And I went, oh man. So I was so torn because I'm like, oh, here's this movie that's empowering young women. And I know so many women are like, wow, it was so awesome finally seeing a woman on screen kick ass rather than a male, usually a white male. But then I was like, oh, so now they're saying, hey, young women, you need to join the war effort. You can be a hero for America. And I was like, oh, look how powerful the message was. You're Wonder Woman if you do that.
Right. You're Wonder Woman if you have the gun on your back and a confused, pointless mission to go after.
Yeah.
If you are Wonder Woman, if you can shoot a sniper rifle at targets of who knows what. I mean, it was kind of unclear, but at least we know you're very good at shooting at. Could be a terrorist, could be a teacher. Don't know.
In a war that's been going on since you were 4.
Well, because a lot of what Wonder Woman did in reality is Wonder Woman defended the poppy fields for American exploitation.
Yeah, and Wonder Woman was all about we need a pipeline through this company for oil companies, and we need minerals for the cell phone business.
Many people don't know the opioid crisis never would happen without Wonder Woman, so we have a lot to thank her for.
She's been great.
We really do.
She has been great.
But as long as you've opened this door into criticism of these superhero movies, we might find something we disagree on. I have seen many of them, most of these superhero movies. There is definitely something enjoyable about many of them. And the Wonder Woman one, I enjoyed watching her kick ass. I think the kick ass parts were lovely. I like the idea of a tribe of warrior women who seem to have cut off the balls of all the men.
I like the first part of that, not the second.
But I have to say that when you really pay attention to what it is that movie is about, the warrior female Wonder Woman comes to, Earth in Britain or wherever she is guided around the world by a man who's telling her how to behave like a civilized human. Like she's like a fucking dope, and like she's just like, do I use my sword to make phone call? Yeah. And he's like, no, silly lady, that's ridiculous. And so yes, she can kick ass, but she's a fucking idiot, and I get it, just because she's an alien, blah blah blah. But the overall message is like, man will help silly lady get through societal norms, you know.
I think that's interesting, and there was a lot. I mean, that's a really cool. And I remember like discussing, even debating this on my movie podcast, because there's scenes obviously where he sees women, or she sees women in dresses. She's like, why would you dress like that? That's where he's telling her, hey, little girl, this is how you should dress. And she's like, there's no way I'm dressing that way. So there was some like pushback, but yeah, right. that's a very valid thing. And I'm so torn with all the superhero movies, because I like superheroes. I grew up reading comic books. I like their big budget, fun popcorn movies, but man, it's so hard to go, boy, did the CIA push that through? And boy, was that, I mean, what general at NORAD signed off on that scene? Like, it's just,
right.
It's hard to watch in some levels, man.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's like often the broader picture is something I could get behind, like. The broader picture, I think, in Wonder Woman and some of the others, is that we're destroying the planet's resources. Right. Now, granted, it's the evil villain's solution is to kill all the people or whatever. But I agree that people like, that's an important point to hit home. Mm-hmm. I think what was it, with Ultron or something. I think the point of like creating AI that is smarter than us and can doom us. I think that's an important point to talk about. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of important points in there, but there's just enough of this kind of horseshit pro-military stuff and pro-CIA stuff that will drive you nuts. Like in Black Panther, the only kind of unimpeachable character that really just has pure motives to the whole thing, and never once are you like, well, I don't know if he should have done that, is the fucking CIA guy.
Yeah, I know. and it was like, oh boy. And he's like, and again, there's the depiction of the like, the CIA, good fun-loving CIA gangs here. And maybe you're like, oh, they'd run some secret ops, but it's never like, hey, you're evil. You're doing horrible crap. You've been ruining this planet for 70 years. Like, stop it. Nobody ever says that. It's like, hey, they got to get stuff done their way, and it's.
And you notice, so like in Black Panther, the evil guy is the weapons, black market weapons salesman, mm-hmm. right? And it's like, what are we? We're just not black market. We're just up front and center weapons salespeople. We sell the largest, most powerful weapons to the most horrific regimes that are like causing a genocide in Yemen. But no, this one surly fella from from downtown Oakland who grew up on the streets and now has weapons connections. He's the bad guy. That's the only. Well, that's the only weapons salesperson.
It just summed up America's. Denial and hypocrisy all in one. Like, that guy selling crack on the street corners and evil. But please, here's Merrick Pharmaceuticals to give you some great some great medication for you. And all those evil dictators in those poor third world countries locking people up. But the private prison industry in America is keeping us all safe and free and putting people in jail who have been smoking a plant. So that's fantastic. Right. That's all. So anyway, as we wrap this segment up, learn more about the Creel Committee and what that happened 100 years ago is now in full force today, as we've just discussed, in a military recruiting video before a blockbuster superhero movie that then gets pushed out all throughout social media. And you drive down the street and you see there's the new Jack Ryan Isn't the CIA Great series on Amazon, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, who, oh, by the way, the CIA paid him $600 million to host their servers. There's no connection there. That's just random. You see how powerful it is, and it started with Creel and pushing World War I on the American people.
Yeah. $600 million contract with the Pentagon, which for Amazon is probably small peanuts, but it's big enough to matter. And he also owns the Washington Post, so then you have all this pro-war garbage at the Washington Post. I mean, it's all linked together, and it's truly fucked up.
Everybody, like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification button and the subscribe button, even if you've done it before, because they're unsubscribing, many of you, every day. Watch the ads all the way through. If you click skip ad, I don't get paid. Also, support us at patreon.com/Graham Elwood or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. Rockfin.com is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. All my videos are on Rockfin ad-free. Thanks for watching.